Coming up on NCC News, how nursing students are training for diseases. We'll meet an army doctor and a rabbi from Newtown. See you soon. Hello, I'm Alex Ravello.
And I'm Chris Orvez. Here now, the news, Ebola, and other infectious diseases have been on our minds since September.
If you make your way to NCC, you will find that the nursing program at the college is in front and center in training aspiring medical students in dealing with infectious diseases, but not Ebola. Michael Pereira reports and Leroy Moore provides the narrative.
It's another day at a nursing school, except now the studies have become more intense because they're learning about infectious diseases. We took a tour of the program.
So after she's done scrubbing for about 20 seconds, she's going to properly rinse her hands, making sure that they are pointing downwards so that the water will go into the sink and not contaminate her clean surfaces.
Well, you know, it is a very scary prospect, but at the same time, I think it's very exciting because I think this is going to come and revolutionize the way we look at infectious organisms, and it's pretty cool to be part of that while we are nursing students.
At this point, they've been given a brief lecture on Ebola, how it's contacted, what the signs and symptoms are, what the blood workup would be, how you would diagnose it. And how you would, if put in that situation, what kind of personal protective equipment the CDC guidelines are.
For folks in the medical field, it is a whole new ballgame. The hysteria over Ebola and other illnesses have shown more of a spotlight on hospitals and the professionals who work in them. They're learning how to be safe so they can keep you and I safe and healthy. This is the environment that is created here at NCC. Certainly very valuable. I'm Leroy Moore, NCC News.
Meanwhile, Ebola is not only on the medical world's mind, but is on the military agenda as well. In preparing to ship out, they're gearing up to do battle with the unknown. In Texas, soldiers at Fort Bliss began their Ebola training. As they preparing to go to Liberia, the soldiers are learning how to properly put on, remove protective masks, suits, boots, gloves, and air filtration systems. The Army says it's unlikely they will come in contact with the deadly virus, but the training is mandatory. Fort Bliss officials say the first group of soldiers are expected in Liberia soon. They are an advanced task force with 3 Black Hawk helicopters and 3 medevac choppers.
In the Middle East, we're following the battle with ISIS and other Muslim groups. What we've uncovered is a secret weapon in the war with ISIS. The Kurdish women can fight as fiercely as the men, as Ivan Watson tells us.
Don't be fooled by the pretty song. These women are part of a militia that is ISIS's most deadly enemy in Syria. Kurdish fighters from the People's Protection Units, or YPG. They've fought ISIS on the ground in Syria for more than a year. Only recently, they started getting help from the U.S. in the form of airstrikes and weapons drops. A surprising turn of events for this secular, Marxist-rooted movement, which includes many fighters who have long battled America's NATO ally, Turkey.
An important part of this Kurdish movement's ideology is founded on gender equality. That means female fighters fight and bleed on the front lines. And that stands in sharp contrast to ISIS, which has been covering women up and hiding them from public life.
Addressing the crowd, a top Kurdish official who urges the fighters to protect their people from becoming slaves of ISIS. She is the co-president of one of 3 Kurdish statelets in northern Syria that have largely governed themselves for the last 3 years.
Our dream is to build a democratic society that includes Arabs, Christians, and Kurds.
We think of our armed forces as having state-of-the-art planes. Well, hurricane trackers have some pretty cool toys to take to the skies with. Rachel Crane reports on some hurricane Top Guns.
Hurricane hunters fly straight into the eye of the storm to gather the kind of information that alert emergency systems and help save lives. Led by Dr. Frank Marks, the NOAA Tropical Cyclone Research Team has been doing this for decades, carrying onboard monitors that track storms in real time to gather data so we can better understand what makes massive storms tick, so we can predict their paths and protect ourselves in the future. NOAA has an entire fleet, including 2 Lockheed Martin P-3 Orions, named Kermit and Miss Piggy, both veterans of more than 80 hurricanes. Now, the P-3s are getting a 21st century upgrade. Electrical and aeronautical engineers are going to work on the planes to the tune of $35 million, outfitting them with next-generation electronics, highly engineered structural changes to withstand Category 5 winds, and surveillance technology that can see deeper and farther into storms. With the upgrades, the planes are projected to fly another 15 years or more. By then, Dr. Marks hopes to move hurricane forecasting up to the stars and is collaborating with NASA on a project called NextRad to do just that. In the meantime, he'll be buckling up for a safer ride in Miss Piggy and Kermit once the renovations are complete.
They cry, they coo, and giggle. No, it's not your mate, and hopefully they will not pester you for a beer. Enough about the adults. But what's really going on in babies' minds? Holly Furfer reports.
Babies can be baffling. Why do they do what they do? Well, psychologist Lynn Murray wrote a book about the baby brain, and she explains a few simple everyday issues, like fussing. Now, we've all experienced that baby who cries uncontrollably. But why? Well, it seems they're working out what's going on around them. It can be annoying, but according to Murray, it may be a good thing because they're being responsive to their environment. Do you ever notice how some kids will sit for what it seems like forever and read books? Well, Murray says it's crucial to read to kids very early on to not only help them develop their language and attention skills, but to build good habits early on. And finally, that annoying baby talk that drives you crazy. You know what I'm talking about? Well, it just may work. Murray says that exaggerated high-pitched tones will capture a baby's attention and they may listen better to the words that you're saying.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Holly Furfer.
Meeting somebody for lunch or dinner, a meeting, or the Maritime Aquarium, among the other Sono attractions, but finding parking is such a hassle. Now, there is an app that can score you that parking spot you so need right now.
By subscribing to an app, anybody who's looking for a parking place can know immediately which parking spaces are available in real time. So it's tremendously important because people drive around looking for parking places, wasting a lot of gas, a lot of time. And frequently, if they can't find a parking place, they get discouraged, they drive away, and the business, the restaurant, whatever, loses the customer.
It's another tool for the driver, for someone who's using their car to park, to find parking easily and to get out of their car, walk around, enjoy our downtown, and find their and it actually also will help you find your car back as you're walking around.
We decided, so to speak, to road test the Parker app. We rode around South Norwalk. We wanted to go to a certain area, and we decided to give it a shot. Now, the way the app works, if it's in green with plus numbers, our chances are pretty good. If it would be in red, our chances of finding the ideal spot would be either slim or maybe even less.
Try finding something there. Wow, this meter works. This thing works. They were right, and here we are.
You got things to do, places to go, and people to see. Well, once you get your parking spot, all that magic can happen. In South Norwalk, Nat Samberg, NCC News.
Now that he has job security for 4 more years, Governor Malloy touted the values of higher education, particularly at the 2-year level. Wonder what college the governor may have been referencing when he visited NCC in the fall? He spent over an hour with students and college administration.
Costly alternative to or ways to earn degrees in our state. For instance, some of you have already figured this out. If you do 2 years and get your associate's degree here, the total cost over 2 years is a lot less here than it would be in Southern, Central, Eastern, Western. As long as we have articulation agreements that allow you to take all of your credits with a C or above to those institutions, you can actually get a pretty inexpensive, comparatively speaking, education.
When we come back, we will meet an artist who's all about the egg.
And we'll be clubbing. This and more coming up. You're watching NCC News. We have an appreciation for great artists, but when the artist brings her works and talents to the halls of NCC, that makes it extra special. We took a look in at the artistic expressions of Tammy Nguyen, when a Vietnamese-born artist who shares her vision of her youth through the prism of chickens and assorted other works.
All of the prints are using, they all start out with a water-based woodblock, which is the blue color that you see everywhere, and they're over here as well. And then after that, each print is collaged and drawn on to make unique. There's a narrative in all of these prints. The title of the series is called The Double-Yolked Egg, and what it talks about in a scientific kind of a way is it talks about my observation looking at double-yolked eggs. There was a time in the past when I had opened up a big carton of double-yolked eggs, and I was a little bit distressed because it seemed so odd. Anyway, so a lot of these investigations in here are about the science behind the double-yolked egg. Why is it so wrong? What's wrong with the mother? And so you see these things repeated. However, what's actually happening as well, or simultaneously happening, is that the story of the double-yolked egg is a proxy to talk about memories of war that I don't have. So when you look at these images, you start to see that there are these comic book clippings, right? These chickens look like they're burning in some type of a hot, torrid jungle. And when you look closely, the magazine cutouts are actually excerpts from a comic book called Vietnam, or Nam actually. And the language in it is very cinematic. It's as if it were, sort of like a blockbuster hit or something.
Since we are a commuter college, we don't have a sorority or a fraternity rush day, but we do have Club Fair Day around here.
It was a rather festive atmosphere. Not only did clubs have a chance to make their pitch to possible new members, the dance club was out there shredding their stuff and really livening up the atrium in the area in the East Building. Some clubs stress fun and a chance to share common interests and hobbies. Other clubs emphasize ways to sharpening skills and find mentors and peers towards career goals. Later, reporter Nat Samberg went to the marketing club.
Basically what we do in marketing club is we educate and we help other clubs promote themselves and their events, their clubs. We also like to educate our members in marketing, and we do that through the AMA events. We do that through specific field trips, through event planning. We do that, we kind of hands-on experience, like a practical.
Advertising, people think advertising is marketing, and the truth is that advertising is a subset of marketing. So while certainly you could go into advertising, you could also go into public relations or product development, market research, selling, all kinds of other things.
It seems like a great club, but a few seconds about another great club.
Yes, the TV Film Club meets in E110, where the women and men who have put together this broadcast, as well as future shows here at NCC, were around shooting, video editing, voicing, and honing our skills as we consider all the hours we put in as a labor of love. Our own Michael Perea is the club president, and this is a club you can enjoy and focus on.
For the drivers who have gone electric in their wheels to go green, NCC has added 2 electric charging stations to the West Campus parking lot. Eric Gridlin, director of the BEST program known as Building Efficiency and Sustainable Technology, held a ribbon cutting at this event. Let's take a look.
Committee, which stands for Committee for Active and Responsible Environmental Responsibility, environmental sustainability, saw that there was a grant available from the state in the amount of $2,000 per electric car charging station. We thought, well, what do we have to lose? Let's go for this application and see if we get not enough to cover the full expense. So we asked a local car dealer, and he's willing to give us $2,000. CC is about $500. We were also able to get one of my students, best student, to some state money and some corporate money that helped us get this done. I would add solar. Our parking lots are wide open and they get a lot of sun, and we could put around the campus to collect solar energy, and we could power about 80% of this campus using solar energy, and we are pursuing that right now. I'd also like to see us consider something called combined heat and power, where we're generating our own electricity and heat using an engine, and we'd then be considered a microgrid. We'd have our own electricity source on campus that if there were ever a power outage, we could generate our own electricity. Well, we decided, we got a grant 5 years ago to start our BEST program, the Building Efficiency and Sustainable Technology program. Had a number of students go through this program. Over 200 people have taken course. And now we're expanding into a 2-year energy management degree program, which is very exciting. We're doing this for a couple of reasons. Number one, we need to find ways as a society to use less energy and to use cleaner energy so that we don't put so much carbon in the atmosphere, because carbon is contributing to the planet getting warmer and to the severe weather that we've all been experiencing. It is contributing to climate change. Regardless of what other reports you hear, 98% of the scientists agree climate change is happening and it's caused by human activity. The other reason we're doing this is because this is where the jobs are going. We're going to see way more jobs. If you thought the dot-com boom was big, just wait for the energy boom. There's going to be all sorts of careers and jobs available for people in all sorts of energy, alternative, renewable, and traditional energy. And there's also going to be jobs for people in reducing energy, and that's what our students do. They go into homes and buildings now, and they find ways for those owners and clients to save energy today using technology and behavior.
So thank you all for bringing those vehicles.
When we come back, we will visit a town of history as well as tragedy. When we look at Newtown and how a man of faith lived through that day of horror 2 years ago.
You're watching NCC News.
It's been 2 years since a deranged gunman named Adam Lanza killed his mother and then descended upon Sandy Hook Elementary School. A small town as well as the nation was traumatized by this very sick person. It put Newtown, Connecticut right up there with Columbine, Virginia Tech, and Fort Hood among other mass killings in our country. In our director's viewpoint, Nat Samberg visited this bucolic town near Danbury and spoke with a member of the clergy.
Newtown, population 27,000. A place of Americana, of history, where everybody knows each other, where horses can graze in a lush green field. Friday, December 14th. A beautiful day until the worst happened.
6-7 Sandy Hook School. Caller is indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building.
When it was over, Adam Lanza had killed 20 first graders. 6 adult women, including the principal, school psychologist, and teachers. Police, fire, EMS, and Rabbi Shaul Praver were called to serve.
That Friday morning, I had a bat mitzvah rehearsal. The student took the day off school. Her father is a fireman, still is, and he came in, it was a 10 o'clock appointment, and he came in and said that there was a shooting down at the school and that he might be called away. As we progressed in our rehearsal with difficulty, we get the call from the Catholic Church, St. Rose, from the secretary saying, "Rabbi, get down to the firehouse right away." And so, what's going on? Tell me, give me some information. So, "Rabbi, just get down there. You're needed."
I think the firehouse, if I remember correctly, was the staging area where they told the families.
Correct. And that was the big trauma for me personally, to be in a room with people that just told by the governor at around 3 o'clock that later that afternoon that they would not be reunited, that he was very sorry that they would not be reunited with the children. And just the shock and disbelief of that kind of news, it doesn't even, is this real? It doesn't, it's just too big to quite completely manage.
What could you say to them, or to any of those families at those particular moments?
We're going to get through this no matter what the outcome is, before we had known whether the kids were dead or alive. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. And just, let them know that you're there for them, and that this, don't deny that this is crazy difficult. This is, of course, the most difficult thing you ever experienced in your life. And you're sorry that this is happening. And I'm just going to stay here with you, and we're going to go through this.
When you interact with the people of Newtown, do you get a sense that there is healing?
There's healing and there's pain, I think in terms of like physical therapy, sometimes physical therapy can hurt like hell, but you're getting better by doing it. So there's healing and pain. There's a lot of things people are doing to help themselves. I also had some post-traumatic stress syndrome, and I only really feel better when I feel like I'm doing, not feel like, but when I am doing something to further the cause of peace and civility in the country. When I do something, like a mitzvah, do something good, I feel like I'm honoring, the memory of these people.
This is the entrance to the old Sandy Hook Elementary School. An empty road covered with cones, do not enter signs, and a gated fence with electronic surveillance. This was torn down a year after the carnage. Now the town has drafted plans for a new day school, as the town looks for a glimmer and ray of hope.
As we go through the various times and occasions on the American calendar, we may want to stop and take stock of the good things we have in this nation. Much of the credit can go to the men and women who have defended our country. Through good and bad, today we meet Dr. Ralph Bloch, a retired mayor and a still practicing ophthalmologist, well into his 70s. He served as an Army doctor at Fort Benning, Georgia, during some parts of his in the Vietnam War. Let's meet him.
I grew up with an interest in military service, perhaps because I had family whom I never met who died in the Holocaust of World War II, and I grew up with an appreciation for American military service because I was always aware that it was the American military effort that was pivotal in the defeat of the evil empire that perpetrated the Holocaust. I was drafted into the U.S. Army, much the same as many Americans of my age at that time, or even younger. That was in 1971, and the Vietnam War was still going on. At that time, the war, I think, was 8 or 9 years in duration, and the war was winding down, but it was still very active. After residency, I got my orders to go into the service, and I was ordered to Vietnam. And then shortly before departure for the combat zone, my orders were changed, and I was sent to Army service in Fort Benning, Georgia, where I spent the next 2 years as an Army physician and ophthalmologist. So one rather elderly gentleman that I operated on for a cataract was a retired Army sergeant who had spent 20 years in the service, most of which was in airborne, that is, as a military parachutist. And he came to me at the time. He must have been, at least 65 or 70 years old, so he was long since out of the service, but he lived around Fort Benning, and he had a dense cataract in one eye. And the discharge orders included the recommendation that they not engage in any real strenuous activity, such as running or lifting any heavy objects. 1 week later, when he came to see me that week, the eye was actually in very bad shape. It was severely inflamed. In retrospect, I tend to think of it as having looked a little bit like the Normandy beachhead 3 days after the landings. And I was very upset seeing this, and I said to the retired sergeant, I said, "What happened to you?" And he said, "Nothing much happened to me." And I said, "Well, your eye looks very inflamed." I said, "What did you do?" And he said, "I didn't do anything special. I was home. Of course, I'm a member of the Retired Soldiers Jump Club, so I did jump out of a helicopter twice at 3,000 feet. And I said, "You did what? 1 week post-op eye surgery, you jumped out of a helicopter?" He said, "Well, Doc, you told me I shouldn't do any running or lifting any heavy objects, and I didn't. I had one of my buddies put my parachute on my back, and I just jumped." And I said, "You jumped and you landed, going at I don't know what speed, and you did this within the first week after eye surgery?" And he said, "Well, Doc, you didn't tell me I shouldn't jump."
2 years ago, Dr. Bloch wrote a book about doctors who were successful in other endeavors. As well, the book is titled Healers and Achievers, and profiles artists, athletes, and theologians, as well as others. The book is available on Amazon, and to Dr. Bloch and all who have served our country, thank you for our service.
Does a bear do it in the woods, or dare we say in a pool? A bear in Pennsylvania felt summer was not over and decided to barricade himself in someone's pool and have a final time. All that was missing for our cavorting cub was a beer and some barbecue. The afternoon of fun with our bathing Bruin was all caught on camera.
Here's someone who just didn't want to give up on the summer season. This bear snuck into this backyard here in Hanover Township near Nanticoke and went straight for the swimming pool. He checked out the water for a little bit, took a drink or two, but then it was time for a swim. A long one. The uninvited guest made him or herself right at home.
It's got to be a couple 100 pounds, 200 or 300 pounds standing on the edge here.
Dominic Lombardi is amazed his pool didn't collapse. It all happened in his backyard. His security cameras captured all of it.
My daughter called me and said there's a bear in the backyard, and I thought she was joking.
But no one in the family saw the bear swimming until they checked out the security video and saw this furry fellow wasn't just here for a quick dip. He lounged around like you or I would on a hot summer day. It seems this guy really wanted a nice, enjoyable swim.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice day. I could have used a beer.
And maybe a raft to float on. But after a while, the bathing Bruin did get out. Speed up the video, though, and you'll see he moseyed around and headed right back for the pool, right back for another swim. The camera caught the bear leaving after that second swim and caught it popping the kid's ball before heading out. 3-year-old Nina wasn't too happy with that, but was amazed seeing the bear that splashed in her pool.
He sneaked in my yard.
This hole under the deck is how they think the bear first came in and out, but after the third swim in the pool, the bear decided it wanted a different way to leave. This is video of swim number 3, 3 different times in the water, all within about a 15 or 20 minute period. But this time the bear climbed out and headed for the back fence. It's tough to see, but he decided to make his own escape route back there. Now look at what he did to Lombardi's fence, making that getaway. As for the pool...
Are you gonna go swimming now?
No!
How come?
It's stinky!
Just hope he doesn't come back anytime soon.
Talk about weird relationships. Look like this is not your typical cat. Dogs' relationships, as reporter Michael Squires tells us.
4 tiny kittens in Thailand's northernmost Chiang Rai province find an unusual foster mom, a 1-year-old dog that nurtures and allows them to nurse. A man had adopted and brought home the 4 kittens. When Nam Tan, a mixed breed dog, first met the kitten, she instantly showed her affection. Suith Matai, the resident of Du Lang district and owner, said Namthan had recently had a miscarriage and since become friends with the kittens. They spend time together night and day. Whenever the kittens are hungry, Namthan will rush to feed them, creating an incredible scene of beautiful friendship and incredible motherhood.
Man, that dog looks exhausted. That's our news for now. I'm Chris Orvis.
And I'm Alex Ravello. Thank you so much for watching, and may you have a day you will think of fondly tomorrow.
We will continue to pay tribute to our local veterans who have done so much for our country.